So I'm here with my friend Samantha, who's going to introduce herself later, but she's an awesome drummer that's picked up a lot of cool and interesting gigs, but she's been a bit ahead of the curve with setting up her online teaching for drums.
Aw, thanks.
So tell us a bit more, I guess, about yourself as a drummer, kind of some of the stuff you were up to before lockdown, and yeah, just how, and then I guess how lockdown has shaped what you're doing.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor, real pleasure. Before lockdown came about and COVID-19, I was kind of set to have like my busiest year gig wise. I
Yeah,
had like my
sounds familiar.
busiest January and February ever. Um, was like super looking forward to the rest of the year, and then obviously, as we all have, lost all of my gigs like overnight
Yeah.
on March the 13th or whatever it was.
Yeah, because this is what a lot of people don't realize as well, is that it hit us in the music industry before we actually went on to lockdown. So it was about a few weeks, a couple weeks before we actually properly locked down that actually all the gigs just started dropping like flies.
100%, and they were just disappearing. I think that happened on like the Wednesday, and I was booked that weekend, like the
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, gone. And then obviously all your gigs for the rest of the year, as this whole thing has progressed, have like slowly started disappearing. And then we actually went into lockdown on my birthday.
That's why the date is memorable for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like perfect. So went in on my birthday, and I kind of, obviously it was like, a massive shock. But I also kind of knew that for me, some sort of normality like had to try and continue.
Yeah.
Because I've always had like 50% of my income as gigs and 50% of my income as teaching.
Yeah. And both of
Um,
those pretty much, well, not for you, for a lot of other people, both of those incomes just completely wiped out in one.
100%. Well, I was actually working in a school on a Monday, and I lost that like completely straight away. Um, so
How
I was
did your
kind of,
school contract work, by the way, whilst we're here? Because I know, I mean, I had a day at a school once a week as well. Were you peripatetic, meaning parents paid you, or were you actually hired by the school?
so I was a peripatetic teacher, self-employed. Um, and I actually still had one more week where I was meant to go in and teach the kids at the school. Um, as part of the termly kind of block
Yeah.
of lessons that they pay for. So I obviously lost that. The school kind of said to me, we can't do anything to help. We can't do anything to help you.
Yeah.
You're self-employed. So I just, something in me was like, right, okay, I need to make the most of the situation. I have got children that have worked so hard and they have been booked in for exams this summer. I do not
Yeah.
believe that everything is going to be cancelled. Like, we just have to roll with the times a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and picked up my electric drum kit, which was in my storage unit. And I very kindly asked the lady that I lived with, who was a legend, if I could please use the front room to teach my lessons from. And she said, yeah, no problem. And we kind of made an agreement of like what times that
Yeah.
it would be and like during the week. So I managed to carry over my private students to teaching them online via FaceTime.
That's good.
And
And this
then
is the thing as well, because a lot of people, sorry to cut you, but a lot of
it's all right.
people are when these things come up, it's like, what software do I need to use this? But you're saying you literally took your electric drum kit and turned up with your iPad on FaceTime to make it happen.
100%. Well, I mean, I did a little bit of research into like the Zoom kind of like drum settings, and I know that they have like I'm not a very technical person at all, and I know that there's some sort of like cut off
Yeah,
in
like
Zoom.
noise cancellation or something.
Yeah, so I just thought, okay, let's give this a go. Most children have an iPad, or like their parents will have an iPhone or something. I didn't want to make it any harder for anybody else by saying download this program and blah 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 blah. So I was like, right, let's do it on FaceTime. And then within a week of me doing these lessons on FaceTime and just like putting it out there on like my Instagram and my Facebook, I actually recruited another student straight away. And she actually has 2 lessons a week with me. I've never met her in person.
Wow, that's
Still haven't met
amazing.
her in person. And she started her lessons with me in March, and now she's working towards her grade 2. So
That's wicked.
yeah, it's really good. I feel really like, you know, lucky that I was able to kind of, you know, I had the space and the facilities to be able to kind of make that happen. But I was kind of did have like a very clear goal like in my head of like what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's that's good. That's like, because there's just
Thank
it's
you.
one of those ones where it's just been a mission for so many people, and it sounds like, you know, you've really made it work for yourself. You know, you've taken the negative situations and worked out a way to make it work. What would you say is, because one thing I've noticed is for a lot of people, and myself included actually, what sort of like ratio did you have in terms of drop off from people who were already having in-person lessons to when it dropped? Did you find there was a bit of friction between going online and
So I lost at the school I was teaching at, I had 10 students
yeah,
there, and 2 of them came online with me, and that was mainly because lots of them didn't have a drum kit at home to practice on.
yep, yep,
So in that sense I lost 8 students there, but I managed to keep all of my private ones.
yep,
um and since then as well, I've recruited another, basically in lockdown I've recruited 2 new private students.
yep,
So I have 11 of those a week,
yep.
and then the 2 from
From
the
the
school.
school. It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? I think that seems to be a running thing with like in school teaching. I think there's a much higher drop off because there's a little bit less commitment usually, just because it's not as big a decision, you know. When someone that goes and gets a private tutor, usually more time is put into it, more thought is put into who they choose. Whereas school lessons, it's kind of like a letter that gets sent home, and a few people decide, oh, actually, yeah, why not? Let's get you in for some guitar lessons or drum lessons.
100%. And I think as well, like when you have your private students, like if you're going to their house every week, or this child is coming to your studio every week, or like wherever you're teaching them, you build a relationship and a rapport with them and the parents, and then you become part of their week.
Yeah, you
Whereas
do
like
really become part of the family in a weird way.
100%, 100%, and like they start knowing lots about you, and you know lots about them. But you know, my kids at school, sometimes I will never ever ever meet their parents ever,
Yeah,
and you know we'll just correspond via email, and it's a much less personal thing. Whereas if you have like a connection with them and they see you, then you know, they're more likely to stay with you for years.
Yeah, this is it. So it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? So really, the focus then goes on building those personal relationships, I guess. What would you say? What sort of stuff are you posting on, like Instagram, to and just social media in general to kind of get students intrigued, interested? I'm sure that'll be a lot of
So
question people will want to ask.
yeah, sure, no problem. So first of all, obviously, whenever you're posting anything like of a student, you have to have like written permission from the parents to say that that's you know okay with them, and they have to sign something. In the beginning of lockdown, I just had like I just took like a photo of my kids like having the lessons on the platform,
Yeah,
and just put like well done X, well done, let's say well done Zach,
yeah,
um working towards your grade 2 is going great. I also did a couple of testimonial videos where I asked each of my students to say something about their lessons, and how they found me as a teacher, and then I edited that all together and put that up on my social media platforms. Um, so yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I've been
so
putting
really
out there.
it's kind of basic stuff, really, just putting out
Yeah.
stories. But I guess it's more just getting the word out that one, you are actually doing these online lessons, and two, people are actually signing up, doing them, and enjoying them.
100%. And I think as well, like because I was very on it with like trying to keep on top of like what the Trinity and Rock School were going to be doing.
Do you have a
um
preference, out of interest?
oh, do I have a preference? Well, the majority of my students, like lovely ones that I teach, they tend to choose the Trinity syllabus over the Rock School syllabus, just because the tunes are much more relevant.
Interesting. Do you think it's easier at all?
Is it
I
easier?
guess it depends on. I've kind of found a few of the rock school stuff can actually be, some of the tunes in there, kind of grade 5 upwards, really are. Some of them are. I'm surprised that they're like grade 5 or grade 6 pieces, but maybe that's just for those particular instruments.
Do you find the Rock School syllabus harder?
I've not. I did a bit of work with Trinity, but I'm using Rock School for some of my students now, and it's like there's a grade 6 bass piece that really is up there.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like, I think the Rock School syllabus is much more thorough in terms of making you an all-rounded player, because you have to do like the three pieces: the sight reading, the technical exercises, the ear test, the musicianship questions. Like, it's really
Yeah,
thorough.
it's a lot to prep. I've got a student going through grade 5 right now, and it's a lot of things to tick off before you can actually send them in.
Yeah, so much. Whereas like, yeah, the Trinity exam board, like I find that they mark really hard. Like they want
Right.
like, perfect. And especially, yeah, I find that grade 4 upwards, I had two students sit grade 4 this term. They both did really well. They both got a merit. I was
Yeah.
super proud of them. um and they changed it this year. So with the playbacks, they've said that basically no one has to come and do a playback until lockdown is over. You just video call your three pieces, like
Right.
video
Yeah.
your three pieces, and you send those in, and then the playback they will be done at a later date. And actually, I think now might have even changed that the playback element isn't even happening at all, and they're just marking you on your three pieces. So yeah, I had
So
two
anyone
students.
going for a grade right now, now's the time to jump on Trinity and get it done quick.
Get it done quick. You can film yourself as many times as possible, but if your
Yeah,
first
this
piece
is the
goes
thing,
well,
isn't it?
yeah.
That's that. We're having an interesting thing with like the music schools as well now, because obviously people are finishing off their courses online, and it's like obviously final performances and all that sort of thing. Some of it's now video submissions, which I guess it means you know it can be good before you send it off.
100%, 100%. But also I think as well, like, because I had like, while I was doing the video, the video part of the exam with some students, you know, they'd play like their first piece perfectly, their second piece there'd be a wobble, and then the third piece would be great. And I just said to them, you know, like, it doesn't really matter, because if it was a live gig, you know, you make mistakes, so you can keep on doing it and keep on doing it and keep on doing it until it's perfect. But actually at the end of the day, it needs to kind of be a bit of a true representation of like
Yeah,
how you play anyway.
yeah,
No one plays perfect all the time.
that's it. What I had something I wanted to ask, and I can't remember what it is now.
That's okay. You've got a
No,
great hat, by the way. Your hat's
oh,
great.
thank you. What it was actually is we kind of spoke about this off camera a bit, but I've had people come up to me and just in passing in conversations when we're talking about music work and teaching and talking about going online. I've had people say that teaching online couldn't work for me, and especially something like drums. How do you get around teaching drums through Zoom or FaceTime?
Yeah. So I mean, the setup that I've had at home is not been ideal during lockdown. Like, I've been teaching from an electric unplugged drum kit in a flat. So I've had to really develop my communication
Yeah,
and the way that I explain things, and also really work on like keeping my energy levels up, because you know, being on a video call is
yeah,
really intense.
that is it. It's got to be there's a skill to being able to keep, especially a younger individual as well, like engaged and entertained just through video.
100%, 100%. But now I'm actually moving into a drum room where I have my acoustic kit set up, and you know, I have like much better camera angles and a PA system. I think my lessons are going to be much easier. Um, One of the things that has really helped me is by being really organized before the lesson and
Yeah,
making sure I have all the material ready and already sent over to the student,
yeah,
so that they can print it off, or if they need to have it on a phone or an iPad or whatever, then they've got that kind of ready to go. So there's definitely ways of like thinking around it. You just have to take like the logical steps and think, okay, what would I do in that situation? How would I, you know, like to learn? And
yeah.
yeah.
Wicked. What would you say are online learning considerations? So someone's someone's trying to have an accident outside.
Oh no.
It's what would you say for someone who's looking to actually say they've been through this whole lockdown situation and they're like, right, okay, let me get on this online teaching. What would you say are some key considerations?
So if you wanted to start out teaching online now,
Yeah,
so I would say you need to be a bit pushy, because everybody's doing it now to an extent.
yeah. This is it. I'm seeing all kinds of wild prices for lessons being thrown about right now, and it's just like, yeah, it's an interesting time and space to be, you know, advertising lessons.
Definitely. I think as well there's a really important thing of like not undervaluing yourself as well. Just
Agreed.
because like we're like out of work doesn't mean that then we go and work for like, you know, a fiver an hour,
Yeah,
like teaching a lesson. Like stick to your prices, stick to what you think your worth is. If you're obviously just starting out, then you probably can't charge the same as like somebody who's been doing it
question,
for
are
a
you charging
while.
the same as you did before?
Hello?
Oh, we're back go
We're
again.
back. Sorry, where did I get up to?
You were just saying about the extra stuff you have to do with the online.
Yeah. So I find that, you know, all the prep and the admin is a lot of extra work. I find working on a video call very, very intense. It's really hard to sit in front of a screen all day, you know, doing something creative. However, and this is the same situation as if I was teaching in person as well. If I had a parent that came to me and said, you know, Samantha, like, I'd really love my child to like learn the drums with you, but I can't afford your rate, then I would come up with some sort of agreement with them, because, you know, I don't just want to be able to teach, you know, parents that can
Yeah,
pay.
yeah,
Yeah, so because that's not how music works. But I have stuck to my pricing, and it's been fine.
yeah. I have a similar experience too, where my rates are the same, and it's actually I'm personally finding that bar maybe one or two students who just really do well in person to person communication, there's actually a lot more results happening in these lessons because they know they're logging on at a certain time. They'll get warmed up, ready to go. They'll have everything set up and ready, and they're in their own comfortable space. For me, I think that seems to make a difference for a lot of my students. You know, being able to learn at their home or in their room, you know, without having, I guess, the pressure of their parents, you know, making sure they're ready and presentable for the lessons and that sort of thing.
Definitely, I completely agree. Like, I'm super proud of like my students' independence and all of this, because it's just made me realize that like when I was doing the in-person lessons, like I would go in and turn their speaker on, and I would like, you know, go and change their music, and if part of the drum kit fell, they would have, you know, I would sort it out for them, but now they have to do it themselves,
Yeah.
so it's great.
And this is it. And do you know what I find as well? It just allows us to get straight into the content as well, because they're just there and ready. Like you say, they've now got to set up and warm up and all of that good stuff. Would you say there are any other maybe advantages to learning online than in person, either for
Mm,
you or the students?
um I think that they have to. I think that you have to really think about the way that you communicate, which I really like. For example, you really have to listen,
Yeah,
and you really have to wait until the person's finished talking before you can then talk, so there's no interrupting.
that's very true.
That's one thing that I've really, really loved about it. Other than that, I do think that, you know, learning an instrument, there should definitely be a bit of both. You should absolutely have like contact with your teacher and like see them, and especially for technique and stuff, like it's very hard to show somebody over FaceTime exactly how to hold a drumstick and exactly how to like hit a drum.
Hmm.
But there is an absolute advantage to working this way, and as you know, the lockdown restrictions are lifted, I will be carrying a lot of this kind of way of working into my life going forward,
Yeah, and
100%.
I'm hearing a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of this, and it's something I'm going to be doing myself as well with Now that I've established that, this online teaching can work, it's a case of, for example, where I would have to cancel a load of my students' lessons because I'm away on tour or working in another town, city, country. We can now just go to a hotel room and set up your phone and do the lesson. You can just quickly record yourself playing it, send it over. They can actually learn from a video, and then your lesson is answering the problems or questions about that, rather than having to sit there and teach them every individual step in the in-person lessons.
100%. And also as well, like, there's no reason to say that when we do go back to gigging, why we can't do a lesson from sound check if it's quiet enough.
Exactly.
It's great. It doesn't mean that just because we're away that their learning needs to stop. And like, I'm like you, like, I never would have thought of it like that before, ever.
Yeah, this is it. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens in the next 6 months for the music industry. That will take us to where? That will take us to like early February. How's your
Yeah.
calendar looking? When are you next sort of looking to get gigs? Because I'll speak for me. It's not till about March 2021. That's the next one I've got in. We may have salvaged one BBC contract for part of a Christmas show, but we're gonna have to wait and see. It's all playing by ear at the moment.
Oh, fingers crossed that comes through for you. I really hope. Yeah, the gig thing's a mess. I've got my next gig at the moment is New Year's Eve. And then after that, I've got a booking in February, and that's kind of it at the moment. Nothing for the rest of the year. I think a lot of my, residencies that I was doing before this at like bars and restaurants, they're not going to be able to have me back because they're not operating at 100% capacity. And obviously,
Yeah,
we are the additional.
yeah,
Also, there's a set health and safety elements to consider because, the louder a venue gets, the more close people get to talk, and the more likely they are to start like touching each other, so
yeah. It's true.
or not on purpose, but like from talking, or maybe they do want to touch each other on purpose, I don't know. But yeah, it's I mean, the gig thing really upsets me and worries me, but I mean, what can we do? Not a lot.
This is it. But I think this is the start of a lot more moving this way. Where there is the argument. It's not a great argument, but artists can still do more kind of shows, I guess, online and still collect something from streaming. It's by no means a livable income unless you're a massive artist, but people are getting smart with it, and it's just now time for actual instrumentalists to start getting smart with other ways of earning other than playing live, because I think this has shown us that we can't rely on live playing for income anymore.
100%. I completely agree, and it's a very scary and it's very sad to have to come to that reality. But I think we've had a lot of time. We've had 6 months, 7 months of this.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, we kind of know now that unfortunately this virus is going to be here to stay for a bit. So we've got to find ways to get creative, which is what we're doing.
This is
So
it.
pat on the back.
I mean, yeah, without this, we probably wouldn't have even been doing this podcast either.
No, it's mad how, like, your circles start crossing, and
Yeah,
people that you've always wanted to chat to and work with, and you've never had the opportunity to because the right thing's not come up, and how this has like brought us together. So thank you
this is
so
it.
much for asking me to do it.
No, it's great. It's great. I think, yeah, now more than ever, we just have to, you know, network, keep options open, and I guess my audience is mostly musicians to be fair, my biggest followers are in America. So, but it's just mostly like most of the people following aren't professional musicians, but we also both have circles filled with professional musicians. So there's going to be a good mix of people who kind of just play music for fun, people who kind of are interested in doing it as a way to earn money or see how they can, and then also actual professional musicians who have lost work because of this situation. And I think knowing, actually seeing that people are beginning to, actually get students online, and it's something that general people are warming up to, will encourage people to, get involved in the online lesson field.
100%, 100%, definitely, definitely, definitely. And I think as like as we spoken about, I think is more, we might start seeing, like, I don't know, rock school ensembles start doing like online things together, or if they're not already doing it. So yeah, it's just warming people up to knowing that you can learn this way. There is a way around it. Be patient with yourself in the beginning, because it is extremely frustrating, but it does work and you can get results. I've just had like some of my students like absolutely smashed it in their exams this term, because they're more comfortable playing on their own kits, doing the recording in their own homes. It's great, and then they're like, yes, I've achieved something during this period. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's hard, especially for our younger students as well, because they're used to being surrounded by like 30, 40 of their friends every day, and now they're seeing the same 4 or 5 people.
Yeah,
So
it is very hard for
I
them.
think, depending on where they sit with it, the music lessons online are actually a really good break for their week.
I agree, 100%, 100%. Learn music online, and we will come and see you when it's safe.
Yes, that is it. But I think that's probably a good place to call it a day for this talk, for this podcast session. So
Awesome.
thank you again, Samantha, for joining us. And yeah, where can people find you if they want to check you out on Instagram or anything
Ah,
like that?
thank you. Thank you. So I have a website that you can look me up on, which is www.samanthalubin.co.uk. My Instagram handle is Samantha_Lubin, which is Lubin. And then um, my Facebook, I believe, is Samantha Lubin Drummer. But yeah, you can find everything on my website. So yeah.
Perfect. All right, guys, until next time, we shall see you all soon.